All right, the next thing I want to improve here is this logic. Currently, this route handler is too busy calculating what should happen to the state of this rental object. Any logic that modifies the state of an object should be encapsulated in that object itself. Remember earlier we talked about the information expert principle. And using this principle, we move the logic for generating an authentication token inside the user class. So the user class has the information to generate an authentication token. That's why we encapsulated that logic in that class. By the same token, all this logic that we have here is based on the state of the rental. So we're looking at the rental.dateOut. Based on that, we calculate the number of days the movie has been out. And based on that, we'll calculate the rental fee. So all this logic can be encapsulated in the rental object itself. So in this lecture, we're going to modify our rental object and add a new method here, like return. When we call this method would set the return date to now, and it will also calculate the rental fee. So let's go back to our rental model. In the last lecture, we created a static method. Now we need an instance method because this method should be available on a rental object. So how we create an instance method is very similar. Rental schema. Instead of the statics property, we'll use the methods property. And here we add a new method like return. We set this to a function. We don't need any parameters here. Now we go back to our returns module and get all this code from here, cut, and move it right here. Now finally, we need to replace all references to rental with this. We have another reference here, this, and finally, this.rental fee. And here's one more, this.movie.daily rental rate. It's also better to add a line break here because these two lines are purely about the calculation of the rental fee, and they are separate from this logic here, which is about the return date. So as a best practice, always put the lines that are highly related together and separate them from other lines. So with that, now we can go back to our returns module. We get a rental object. We call the return method on it, then save it, and we're done. Let's save the changes and see what we get in the terminal. We have 5 failing tests. So let's see what I missed here. Moment is not defined. Again, the beauty of automated tests. Without this test, I had to manually test every edge case. So back to our returns module. Earlier, we used the moment library here. Here it is on the top. I'm going to cut this from here and move it to our rental module. On the top, we load it here. Save. Back in the terminal, all tests are passing. Beautiful. So here's the final result. Now, one last thing before we finish these refactorings. We don't explicitly have to set the status to 200 because Express will set that by default. So let's remove that and see if our test will still pass. Save. Back in the terminal, everything is working.